been pretty much a lifetime marijuana smoker since I was probably 18 years old. I've been growing for 17 years. I've grown over 100 different crops. I've grown over 30 different strains. And what I have come to find is that I'm passionate about this, and I want to see what works and what doesn't work, how I can make my plant, how I can make my marijuana better testing, better smelling, better smoking, better high. And through that, I've done a lot of research with different nutrients, different grow lights, different watering systems, and I have, like I said, over 17 years, and after all those years, I know what works best for me. And I can simplify it. It's a simple process, and that's why I'm here.
The genetics of the cannabis and basically any plant that grows are what? To grow, eat food, NPK and trace elements, and reproduce. That basically is the circle of the world, the life circle of the world. That's how basically everything is. The plant, no matter the strain, knows what it needs when it needs it. And the relationship with the soil and the soil biomass, or the diversity in the soil and that plant, is where I work.
SoilTek simplifies everything for you. It's a feeding schedule and a structure that's set that you don't have to, it's not complex, it's not complicated. It's a few ingredients in a certain amount of water, and you water it once a week. There is no extreme to it. He uses scientific like jargon, but he's got it simplified where it comes in layman terms. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a botanist. I'm a guy who likes to grow marijuana. I'm not into nitrogen or pH or all the things. I don't know about microorganisms and how they attach to the root and why they do. He does that, and he's done that for me. So he takes the scientific part of it and applies it for you, so you don't have to worry about that. It's simple.
Since 1993, I have looked at numbers and numbers of products out in the marketplace that claim to do things that they just can't do by themselves. And what's happened is we found a couple of products here several years ago that had phenomenal effect in the soil in terms of, first of all, one of them, for example, will increase respiration rate in the soil measurably in 24 hours. It's an organic product. It's safe to use. And from that, we've built a buffet, literally, of products, which, if you use the word buffet, it's exactly the way nature works. It's not one nutrient, it's not one source, it's all of them working together. So I'll go back to the genetic prepotency of any plant. That plant knows what it needs when it needs it. So if that plant's building a bud, if that plant's building a branch, if it's building leaves, it knows what it needs, and via photosynthesis it sends chemical triggers and photosynthetes down to the root zone. The relationship between the soil and the microbial biomass predicates everything that happens to that plant. And if the biomass and everything that plant needs is in there and everybody's working together, you get the sweet buds like Jeff was talking about. It's the same thing with my tomatoes, with my cauliflower, with my apples, with my sweet corn. It's exactly the same thing. I don't manipulate it, I just allow Mother Nature to do what she knows how to do.
There is no magic formula. The magic formula is it's organic. And Woody knows more so than any person I've ever come across in my 17 years, and I've met a lot of people. And I'm not going to say my way to grow is the only way to grow or the best way to grow. I know it is for me. There's thousands of different ways to grow marijuana. But with Woody and his feeding schedule and his program, it's simplified. And the soil that he amends for you already has everything you need. You don't even need the nutrients that he's going to provide for you. It's already in the soil. But what those nutrients do is push your plant a little bit farther than it would if it was just in soil. That's the issue with soil. Soil only has so much in it, and your plant is going to use all that up. But if you want more from your plant, you got to feed it more. It's like somebody who wants to be a bodybuilder. The average calorie count's 2,000 calories a day, but if you want to buff up, you're going to double that. You've got to put on that mass, and that's what the extra nutrient feeding does for your plant. And Woody has found a way to enhance every quality about your plant, from your bud content, your color content, your flavor content. The density in the buds are something that I've never seen before. I mean, they're really, really dense. They're not open and flowery. And the aroma is something I'd never have experienced before. And the taste and the smell and the hot, I mean, if you've gone out drinking before, some people mix their drinks, the headache's gonna be different. You don't get that with marijuana. There's not a hangover from it, but there's a haze if you're an everyday smoker. This doesn't have that. There's a clearness to it. Once you come down, you're crystal clear. There's no fogginess left over from it. There's no after haze, as I would say. And I'm a believer. I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't believe in this product.
Think about a plant as it grows, all right? What's the first thing that happens when the seed germinates? A radicle, a root comes out, right? What's the first thing that develops? The little plant will come through the ground and emerge, but what's the first thing that develops under the ground about that big and the plant's that big? The roots, right? What's the most important thing for that plant? The roots. The more the environment in the soil is conducive to growth and has all the things in it that needs microbes and carbon and all those things, the quicker that root mass grows and the bigger it grows. What happens to the canopy? It follows suit, but it doesn't follow suit like boom, you get this tremendous nitrogenous canopy. You get this regular, systematic growth where you get great caliper on your stem, you get great caliper on your branches, which are strong enough to hold these huge colas that we're growing. A lot of growers don't know it, but if you take a root of any plant and you put it under a microscope, under that microscope, that plant has millions of little bitty hairs. Well, if you take and you rub your finger on your arm, what happens? Well, I guarantee you on that plant root, every one of those little hairs is a chemical receptor. And that plant can tell whether the environment's good or bad for itself. When we take and feed that little guy and we feed that soil as you transplant it, that plant recognizes it. Life recognizes life. Boom, they grow. Since I started looking at products and extracts and derivatives to be added to the soil, a lot of those things, such as humic acids, fulvic acids, seaweed, I mean, I could go on and on and on. First of all, the soils generally have to be in relatively good shape for the humics to really do anything immediately. Fulvics are incredibly active in the soil. They're one of nature's best chelators. They're even good for human consumption. The thing that we've found is that we have manufacturers that take those extracts, those soil derived materials, humic acids is a pre-coal, comes from pre-coal sources like leonardite and lignite. Well, most people take and use some kind of harsh base, potassium hydroxide, to get it into a liquid. Well, one of my manufacturers takes and ferments it, literally digests it, and fractionates it into its individual components, which are many. Our seaweed products are that way. They're fractionated into their individual components. They're not just extracted either by heat or cold or potassium hydroxide and made available. So when we put things or use these things in soil as part of the feeding the biology, we also use these very same products as foliars. And this is something that a lot of these guys don't pay attention to. And in the cannabis business, this plant has an incredible propensity to take up some very significant materials through the leaf. It needs to be timely, and it needs to be on a regular basis. So when it comes to things that are on these labels, I don't want to name them, but I would say ask us the questions. We're going to tell you the truth.